Good morning, Little Masters, and welcome back to today's Tolkien Times. I'm the Man of the West, also from the Prancing Pony podcast. Let's go ahead and wrap up week 12 with Silmarillion Saturday. Now, these Saturdays are our chance to revisit the history and legends of the Elder Days, whether they're from the Silmarillion, Unfinished Tales, or more. Now, last week we finished, well, maybe not finished, but we left at a very hard stopping point, the incredible tale of Hurin that we'd started back in week 9. We witnessed Hurin's heartbreaking reunion with Morwen, his beloved wife, and the mother of the tragic Turin and Nienor. And while we could continue to follow Hurin and see what happened, and someday I'm sure we will, I want to go back and revisit a couple of people who played an important role in his whole story, Thingol and Melian. Luckily, the entire chapter of Thingol and Melian is short enough to read for today's Silmarillion Saturday. So, Chapter 4 of the Silmarillion of Thingol and Melian. Melian was a Maya of the race of the Valar. She dwelt in the gardens of Lorien, and among all his people there were none more beautiful than Melian, nor more wise, nor more skilled in songs of enchantment. It is told that the Valar would leave their works, and the birds of Valinor their mirth, that the bells of Valmar were silent, and the fountains ceased to flow, when at the mingling of the lights Melian sang in Lorien. Nightingales went always with her, and she taught them their song, and she loved the deep shadows of the great trees. She was akin, before the world was made, to Yavanna herself, and in that time, when the Quendi awoke beside the waters of Cuivienen, she departed from Valinor and came to the Hitherlands, and there she filled the silence of Middle-earth before the dawn with her voice and the voices of her birds. Now, when their journey was near its end, as has been told, the people of the Teleri rested long in East Beleriand, beyond the river Gelion, and at that time many of the Noldor still lay to the westward, in those forests that were afterwards named Neldoreth and Region. Elwë, lord of the Teleri, went often through the great woods to seek out Finwë his friend in the dwellings of the Noldor, and it chanced on a time that he came alone to the starlit wood of Nan Elmoth, and there, suddenly, he heard the song of nightingales. Then an enchantment fell on him, and he stood still, and afar off, beyond the voices of the Lomelindi, he heard the voice of Melian, and it filled all his heart with wonder and desire. He forgot then utterly all his people and all the purposes of his mind, and following the birds under the shadow of the trees, he passed deep into Nan Elmoth, and was lost. But he came at last to a glade open to the stars, and there Melian stood, and out of the darkness he looked at her, and the light of Aman was in her face. She spoke no word, but being filled with love, Elwë came to her and took her hand, and straightway a spell was laid on him, so that they stood thus while long years were measured by the wheeling stars above them, and the trees of Nan Elmoth grew tall and dark before they spoke any word. Thus Elwë's folk who sought him found him not, and Olwë took the kingship of the Teleri and departed, as is told hereafter. Elwë Singollo came never again across the sea to Valinor so long as he lived, and Melian returned not thither while their realm together lasted. But of her there came among both elves and men a strain of the Ainur who were with Ilúvatar before Ea. In after days he became a king renowned, and his people were all the Eldar of Beleriand. The Sindar, they were named, the Grey Elves, the Elves of the Twilight. And King Greymantle was he, Elu Thingol, in the tongue of that land. And Melian was his queen, wiser than any child of Middle-earth, and their hidden halls were in Menegroth, the 1,000 caves in Doriath. Great power Melian lent to Thingol, who was himself great among the Eldar, for he alone of all the Sindar had seen with his own eyes the trees in the day of their flowering. And king though he was of Umanyar, he was not accounted among the Moraquendi, but with the elves of the light, mighty upon Middle-earth. And of the love of Thingol and Melian there came into the world the fairest of all the children of Ilúvatar that was or shall ever be. And once again, the males in Tolkien's Legendarium always marry up. Elwë's a king. In fact, he's the tallest of all the children of Ilúvatar, but he marries up anyway. And when you think about the other marriages, they're all connected in one way or another to this one. The obvious one is one we talked about earlier this week on Third Age Thursday, Beren and Luthien, the daughter of these two. Then there's a more distant link with Tuor and Idril. Tuor is kin to Beren. His great-grandfather was actually the brother of Beren's father, Barahir. That makes them, I think, third cousins. But the link connects again later, as the child of Tuor and Idril is Eärendil, who marries Elwing, who's the granddaughter of Beren and Luthien. And then, of course, their children, that is, the children of Eärendil and Elwing, are Elros and Elrond, who get to choose whether they are counted as mortal or elf kind. Elrond chooses to be an elf, and it's his daughter Arwen who marries Aragorn, who in turn is descended in direct line from Elrond's brother Elros. It's all clear as a bell, right? Well, that wraps it up today for Silmarillion Saturday. Come back for more of the Elder Days every Saturday as we open up the pages of Middle-earth history. And if there is a first or second age story you want to hear me read and discuss, please let me know by emailing bartleman@theprancingponypodcast.com. And hey, remember the Patreon for the TTT launched over the weekend. Please think about supporting the show so that I can keep making it your best source for high-quality daily Tolkien content. Everything from an ad-free feed, hang out with me and the patrons, mailbag priority, even bonus episodes are all available. So go to patreon.com/TolkienTimes and sign up today. Finally, join me again next Monday as we start week 13 of today's Tolkien Times with Mailbag Monday. Please like and subscribe on YouTube, follow or subscribe in your podcast apps, and follow @Tolkien Times on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Finally, as Faramir says, go with the goodwill of all good men.